I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
What is going on? Welcome back to the Midday Muscle. I'm Mark Hoppus. Really thankful to have this side gig as Blink-182 does not make that much money anymore. As we're heading into the weekend, one of the biggest storylines we'll be watching is what happens with the Vancouver Pro lineup, where most people have Hassan Mustafa pegged as a clear favorite to roll in and finally secure his Olympia qualification. Granted, there were only 6 names on the initial roster for the Men's Open. It's not quite as deep of a lot as people were initially expecting, but that doesn't change the fact that Hassan is coming off of back-to-back second-place finishes where he looked really good all the way across the board. He's head and shoulders above everyone here in terms of the amount of muscle he's bringing, and his conditioning has been awesome up to this point as well. Even if he just matches the output he had last week in Orlando, that in and of itself should be enough to carry him right to a W here. Now, with all that said, if there was one person to give Hassan a run for his money, that's going to probably be Standalonegu, who finished right behind him in 3rd place last week, where I think he was easily at his all-time best as an open bodybuilder. There's no way Stan or anyone else in this lineup is going to outmuscle Hassan, so that means if he's going to pull off the upset here, it's going to have to be by killing him with conditioning. And that's going to be a tough task given how quick the turnaround from Orlando is going to be. But if for some reason Hassan shows up off and Stan comes in slightly improved, it probably gives him a puncher's chance to make some headway here. And at that point, this show could become a toss-up. And for all you classic physique fans out there, how about a peek behind the curtain at Ramon, who continues to look like he's pulling out all the stops in his run-up to his big showdown with Chris Bumstead in the fall. This might be an interesting year for Ramon in the sense that he's clearly the #1 title contender in that division right now. There's also a lot of momentum behind Urs Kalazinski with all the improvements his camp has been floating out over the last few months, and some of the other newcomers that have started to work their way to the forefront. That doesn't even take into account the fact that Terrence Ruffin is also out there lurking in the shadows too, who for one reason or another seems to be the forgotten man in the bunch right now. We got a feeling it's going to be an absolute dogfight for the 2 through 4 spots this year. But if Ramon improves on the look that he brought into the Arnold, then it'll be more than tough for these other guys to knock him out of that #1 contender spot. And our final update for you today comes from Hadi, who still looks like he's training like a man possessed every time he's setting foot inside the gym. You know, one of the things that kind of amazes us every time we see clips of him training is the fact that the majority of what he does still seems to be rooted in a lot of heavy, basic movements that aren't necessarily flashy, like so much of the other stuff you see online. That's probably a big part of the reason why his muscle looks so dense compared to some of the other top guys he's competing against. Shots. I'm sure he probably does some of that stuff behind the scenes, but at least publicly, the majority of what you see from him is old school barbell movements for a ton of reps using heavy weights, what so many of the greats in bodybuilding history were doing for decades. Even though it might be trendy to use 50 different machines, cables, all sorts of other bells and whistles in the gym, there's a reason why that stuff has stood the test of time. And there's something to be said for a guy at his level still making that the foundation of what he does. That'll do it for the Midday Muscle today. I'm gonna drink more coffee. See you next time.